First of all, just a couple of disclaimers, these next two slides. AI only saves time when it's used strategically or responsibility. The next slide I'm going to talk about before is about guardrails, and I'll come back to that. You need well-crafted prompts to deliver better results. And we'll give you guidelines today on what a good prompt looks like and how you may use that. But the thing that we tell everyone, and all of us have spoken at the League of California Cities, which is the local government conference, done presentations in the county of Napa and Sonoma, and we've written and published things. Our big key thing is none of this ever replaces human expertise. AI should never just post on your behalf, and you actually make the final call on everything. And we'll give you examples today of how that looks. So Doug, the other thing that we're not going to talk about today is governance. And I know a lot of municipalities have yet to adopt an AI policy. There's movements and coalitions that are happening. The AI government coalition that's coming out of San Jose, the city of San Jose, is a great resource. But if you don't have a policy, reach out to us. We can help you begin to write one and put one together. I've worked on a couple myself in the city of American Canyon. We're bringing a policy forward to the council in October. It really is guardrails. And so some of you have said, most of you said you're somewhat comfortable with using AI. If you don't have a policy in place, what you are setting yourself up for some ethical, legal, and reputational risk. But I guarantee you, your employees are using it, and if there's not a policy in place, there's no guardrails in place, and that governance actually really matters. And so keep that in mind. Work within your organizations to try to make it happen, to adopt some sort of policy just for good governance. All right. So with that, let's get right into the top saving tips, and I'll hand it over to Brian.
Thank you, David. So one of the things that we've been doing is looking at all of the different ways that AI tools can be used to help save time. And one interesting exercise that we did is we looked across all of the different government functions that are typical within most cities and most communities, most local municipalities or most local governments. And we literally found dozens and dozens and dozens of use cases for each of those different departments. But today, what we want to do is talk to you about the top time-saving tips for activities that are common across all of the different government functions. So many of you have said that you have started using some sort of AI tool and that you have some comfort level with using AI. The area that most people typically dip their toes into the water on with AI tools is to draft content. And so, this is where you use ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or one of the other tools, and you create a prompt and it generates a first draft of something that you need to create: an email, a post, a statement, a newsletter, something like that. You can literally create in seconds what typically takes hours to create. So on a conservative scale, we believe this can save up to 6 hours. Another area that you can use AI tools to save time in is tailoring that content that you're developing for all of the different audiences or the different channels that your department or your organization needs to communicate with. And so, when you create a newsletter or you create a press release, often that content is not necessarily customized or appropriate for all the different constituencies that you need to reach out to. Using an AI tool, you can very quickly adapt that content to multiple different audiences. One of the ways that I've found AI tools to be extremely effective is to help make meetings more efficient. We all have to sit in meetings. That's just part of the job, right? And so much in the same way that we are recording this meeting, you can use AI tools to record your own meetings. And then based on that recording, you can get a transcript that is often quite accurate. Tools have come a long ways in terms of what was discussed during that meeting. And increasingly, the tools are getting better and better at providing you with a summary of what happened in that meeting and a clear list of action items. Sure, you still need to look through that, make sure that it's accurate, but that's a way that you can save a lot of time. AI is becoming and has been really, really effective at brainstorming new ideas. You literally have the power of millions and billions and trillions of data points. And when the algorithm runs, it can create ideas that are often difficult for a single person. So you get the benefit of a lot of creativity and a lot of different ways to test messages, to test tone, and to test headlines to really make sure that your content is resonating with your audiences. And last but not least, AI is incredibly effective at taking large amounts of data and identifying trends or through lines or specific key takeaways from large amounts of data. And that can be particularly helpful when you're combing through a lot of constituent feedback, or you're looking at a lot of data that may take a lot of time to parse through and pull out key information on your own. And so when you add all of these different time-saving tips up, we believe that you can save more than 30 hours. And so let's talk about how you can save that time specifically. It all comes down to effective prompting. And so there's a right way to do prompting, and we want to help you to prompt like a pro. But one of the key takeaways is that when it comes to prompts, more is better than less. So it's exactly the opposite of the way we typically are taught about writing, where less is more. The more specific that you can be with a prompt, the better output you're going to be. Those prompts consist of 4 basic building blocks. The first one is persona. So who do you want your AI tool to be? Do you want it to be a city manager? Do you want it to be a director of public health? Do you want it to be a Parks and Rec director? Second, what do you want that specific AI tool to do? What is its task? Is it creating a press release? Is it creating a newsletter? Is it doing research? Is it summarizing meeting notes? Third is context. So the more detail you can provide around who you're reaching out to, what it's doing, and what you're looking for, the better the output will be. And then the final point is what sort of output do you want? Do you want this in a newsletter format? Do you want an email? Do you want a press release? Do you want a web posting? Do you want a video, or do you want some kind of creative image? When you put those 4 different formats together, then those form the building blocks of the prompt. So you want to be natural. One of the great things about using AI tools is you don't have to be a technology expert to use them. And you can just write in full sentences, speak like you're talking to somebody, just the way that we're doing today. We still want to be specific and be concise. We want to avoid jargon. We want to avoid acronyms. The more specific detail that you can provide, the better your output's going to be. Often, we'll create a first iteration of the content we're trying to create, and if it's great, that streamlines your process even more. But if it's not quite where you want it, you can continue to ask the AI tool to refine and follow up and make sure that it's getting closer and closer to what you need before you put your final human touch on it. And last but not least, AI can be trained. And this is one of the most powerful ways that you can help save time and prompt like a pro. The more input you put into your AI tool, whether that is documents that you've created, emails that you've created, other sorts of content that is approved for use by your city, your county, or your department, the better output that AI tool is going to be. And so we believe that when you put all of these different aspects together and learn to be a prompt engineer, you are going to have the full power of AI tools at your disposal so that you can really maximize your efficiency in your professional position. So let's talk a little bit about a use case. So I had mentioned a couple of slides ago that we had a lot of different use cases for all different kinds of government functions. But one of the most common ones is to create rough first drafts of content that you need for a specific activity. That could be a news release, a council meeting, a community newsletter, some sort of project update to your team or to a group of individuals that you're working with. This is all about just creating that first draft. Like, I don't know about you, but when I sit down and I stare at a blank page, it's a lot more difficult than when I can look at content that's already been created and start to edit it and refine it. And so by creating an effective prompt and then asking AI to generate the content, you can often have something usable in just a few seconds. And then you can focus on clarity, tone, and strategy. And in just a few minutes or maybe an hour, you can have a document that's ready to go rather than using rather than spending hours and hours and hours developing that first draft. So I provide an example of what a prompt looks like. So this is sort of you'll see the 4 different aspects of generating a prompt. So first of all, you're telling it the persona that you want, director of public health. What do you want it to do? You want to create a press release about a heat advisory. In this case, you're giving it a little bit of context, which is who is the audience? In this case, the general public. How do you want the content to sound? It's calm and informative. It includes safety tips and a call to action. And then the format is sort of embedded within the press release. So you get those different elements involved. And we encourage you to go try it, right? We believe that by putting in a prompt like this and customizing it to your own situation, you can save up to 6 hours just by using an AI tool for these first drafts of content.
Great, thanks, Brian. And as someone who's written many press releases, I could get like 3 to 6 hours savings for sure on that one. So thank you for sharing that. So I'm sharing study number 2, summarizing information. I'm going to give you an example of a legal document I went through, but this could be anything. You could upload meeting transcripts, summarize and explain complex documents. As a council member, I get staff reports that are either legal, that come from planning, that are super technical. And if I upload, and these are public documents, right, because they're coming in a council packet, if I can upload those documents into AI, it can pull out key themes for me. It can tell me a summarize of things. And as I read through it, it's sort of like a Cliff Notes, but as I read deeper, it helps me give a better understanding. And so the prompt example that I'm giving you is a real example. We were in discussions around a development agreement that was signed in 2019 that had been worked on since 2015. And we wanted to extend a road here in the city of American Canyon on the east side of town. It was built in segments. Well, 2024, or just this year, actually 25, we're like, well, who's responsible for building that last part? And are we obligated to build it? And so I used ChatGPT to figure it out for me because the document looked like this. So Doug, can you go to the next slide? On the left is all the segments. In the middle is some words, and then on the right is a bunch of details. I went to the city manager. I said, what does this say? Are we obligated? He's like, I don't read it this way. I went to our city attorney. I said, hey, are we obligated? Not kind of, sort of, really. I don't know. I didn't get a straight answer. I went to the developer. I was like, are we obligated? He's like, yeah, you're supposed to build that damn road, right? Because you're supposed to do everything as a city. And so I took it and I said, give me the Word document of this. I cut and pasted all this. And Doug, if you go to the next slide, Next click. This, I did a simple prompt. I said, this is from a developer. Please analyze it and consider it for now. I just wanted it to look without any input from me. And so all of that you saw previously was just dumped into Chat GPT. Again, this is a public document. So I was comfortable with throwing it in there. Next slide, next click, Doug. It gave me a summary. And I read the summary. I was like, oh, now I begin to understand it. It kind of broke it up for me instead of all that legal language written by a lawyer. Next click, Doug. But I didn't have my answer. My real question was, does the agreement obligate the city to construct the dual road extension? And that is, does the city have to build it? If not, what does it actually say it must do? And so they gave me a little bit more information, but it also gave me a bottom line. Bottom line, this agreement does not obligate the city to build the road. We have to secure the land, line up approvals, permits, and funding, and then the trigger was the developer's construction work. And that's why it was so long and weird, because there was land security, there was approvals and permits and funding that was all written in there, but we don't really have to build it. We just have to act on a few things to try to get ready to build it. Very, very useful use of my time, and I couldn't get any humans to understand that for me, and they appreciated that I ran it through Chat GPT. So that's one way to summarize information. So Doug, I think you got another one?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great example where you don't necessarily want to take up a lawyer's billable hours doing that kind of research, but the AI tools can give you the questions to ask the lawyers, so you can be much more efficient. In the example that I'm showing here, similarly, we're using the AI tools to streamline your work and do some things that you would normally need to get, in some cases, an outside consultant to help you with. And it's not to take the place of the outside consultant, but to spark your thinking and ultimately improve your work. So AI tools, if they are trained on the right universe of work, and the important thing here is that not every AI tool is able to search the current environment of information. So you need to make sure that you know which tools you're using and what they're capable of. But if you're using a tool that is up to speed for current work, you could use the AI to prepare for a media interview, to research rules and regulations, or even to evaluate budgets for a series of time and pick up some of those trends. AI is really good at finding information if you check it. It's even better at summarizing it and presenting the details in something that is easy for you to use, and in some cases even present. Even if the AI information is not perfect, it can spur your thinking in a way that will really improve your work. So, for example, you're an elected county supervisor preparing for an interview with a new reporter at the local paper. You want to get a briefing document that summarizes all the things that we know that reporter has done in the last 2 years, so that you get a sense of their writing style, the topics they cover, what their tone is, and how important this reporter is. And then you want the AI tool to develop a list of questions the reporter is likely to ask about whatever the topic may be. And again, it's not going to take the place of human thinking, but it will probably do better than many of us would do on our own. Here's a real example. This scenario shows what I was able to do with the public version of ChatGPT, although it's the paid version, so it's a little bit better than what you can get publicly. And you would never use this for something confidential. That's really important. But using the publicly accessible ChatGPT, I gave a very detailed prompt. What I wrote was, you're a reporter for the Marin Independent Journal. I'm a city manager. The journalist has asked me to comment about the impact of recent business closures in the community. I need to say something empathetic to the business owners, sensitive to the jobs lost, but I also really want to let people know that we have more businesses opening than closing. Our neighboring communities may be different. What can I say that would support my neighbors, but also differentiate my city? And you can see here that the first response was too long. It wasn't anything that you would really say. So I asked it to make it shorter. It then gave me 3 different versions. And that's something which is great. You can always say, give me 5 different ways to say whatever. We iterated. We came up with warmer versions, more empathetic versions, shorter versions. And this is all, you're seeing this video. This is the real time of how I did this. It's not sped up or anything. You can see how fast the responses are. Now, if you look closely, you will see they are at the end of each response, it's offering a next step. That's something that is new in the past year, where the AI tools can will actually suggest what you might need next. And sometimes it's right, sometimes not. Sometimes it'll suggest something you didn't think about. In this case, the final result was a briefing document. So if I was preparing a city manager for the interview, I got the full briefing sheet with the key message and the pithy quotes that I want the boss to say, and then anticipated thorny questions. Now, really important is that the result that ChatGPT gave me was good, but it was not good enough to use publicly, in my opinion. So here you can see this is my edit of what ChatGPT gave me as the final key message. ChatGPT or any AI tool, no matter how good it is not going to know the nuances that are so important when you're doing communications with constituents, partners, the media. So that human expertise is still critically important. But this whole process took about 10 minutes or so. Without the AI tool, it would have been at least 45 minutes and probably more like an hour. And I've seen some people take all day to do a briefing document like that. Look at how fast it was. It's pretty good, and it's definitely better than not doing anything. So this is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan. And you can do so much with this function, and that's why we're excited about this. So with that, let me turn it back to David. David, you are still muted.
Yeah, I meant to turn that off. Thank you. So the real thing here is to save time this week. Maybe you haven't dove deep like we did here. Maybe you haven't customized it. You could probably do that too. But try new things with AI, right? And use it to save some time. And we gave you some time-saving tips and examples today. But again, AI is not going to replace you. Someone with AI skills will, because they're going to be faster and quicker, and more efficient and productive with their time. But when you're using AI, know that the human touch, matter most. So AI can't read the room. It doesn't know your tone, your boss, or your community. You have to be involved. It is a draft and not a final product. So make sure you're always reviewing for context, clarity, and emotional intelligence. With that, the next slide here, we'd love to help you. Doug, if you could switch over the slides. We'd love to help you and your colleagues develop and implement AI in your organizations. And we'd be grateful for your feedback and questions. You'll get an email with us with some additional resources that go beyond what we presented today. So send us your comments, questions, and get back to us just by replying to that email, or visit our website at publicsectorailab.com. On behalf of Brian and Doug, we want to thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we've shown you ways to save 30 hours in 28 minutes.